college was helping me develop my voice as a writer. So that's how you were able to write and stand out. So when you read something from me, you know I wrote it because it sounds like me. I always wanted my writing to sound like we're having a conversation like we're having now. That's really what Norfolk State and those great professors taught me there. So that was always a foundation. But when I moved to Louisville, right after college, I was an editor. I wasn't even a writer. So I was editing other people's stuff. But I was like, man, I want to write. I want to talk about stuff. And then as we moved into the 2000s and blogs, the blog era started popping up. As a music fan, there was, especially in R&B, hip-hop a little bit, but especially in R&B, the artists that I came up with, like, you weren't seeing articles on them anymore. I remember when an album would drop, you go to your favorite website, you read a review, or you see an interview with your fave. It's like the industry had moved on to like the new dudes, and they had forgotten people that they were still out here doing good music, but they just weren't getting the coverage. So I'm like, I'm gonna be the change that I want to see. So I started writing about taking all those journalism skills that I had before, combined with my passion of music, put it all together, and that's how I started Soul and Stereo. I was just writing crazy stuff, and it surprised me that people are actually reading it. So it picked up time over time, especially in the early 2010s. But it was really the foundation of my love of music, my foundation of journalism coming together at the right time, where I feel like my fan base, well, my generation of fans, really wanted to see and hear more about the music they love, because they weren't getting that out there. So I'm like, they ain't do it, I'll do
it. Okay. I like that. So that basically ushered in the era of you becoming a content developer.
Correct.
Okay. And that, which one do you see have more traction as far as, like you were saying, how media evolves? Would you say that it's better to create the content that you feel like your fans need because they can engage with you? Or do you like it like it was back in the day when they had like WXL, The Source? Which one do you feel is, I would say, more modern for the consumer to really consume more than they used to?
Well, that's an excellent question. And XXL, you know, I still got some of those magazines. Vibe magazine, I still got copies. Source. I do my 5-star reviews. I just stole it from, y'all know about the 5 mics. I stole it. I didn't want to do the mics, I did the stars. So I feel like it has to be a marriage of both. So again, as I talked about before, my generation, we came up on XXL, so like these real, like, deep interviews and like these album reviews, and they would like dig into the producers and the sounds and stuff. And I just wasn't seeing that. So I wanted to take that approach to music writing and bring it to today. Like if I did it exactly like we did it in '99, it wouldn't work because it's not 1999. So I had to take the elements of that, the spirit of that, and then bring it into 2024. So that way it's familiar for our generation, but for a younger generation, there's that kind of tone and energy they like. That's why when I do YouTube, I can do like my goofy characters and things like that. That's gonna really fit the tone of the era. But I'm gonna break down the production, I'm gonna break down their previous albums, I'm gonna break down the lyrics, and a lot of people don't do that, but I wanna do that because that to me was the spirit of why The Source and XXL and Vibe were so good, because they gave you so much information along with entertainment. So I'm taking little pieces and bringing that to it. So when I look at overall what works today and what doesn't work, I feel like we can't do completely 1999 Source, but we can take pieces of it and build something upon that today.
Okay. And it sounds like you really dive deep into the content field. So can you kind of tell us how did that lead up to you working with the city of Birmingham?
Man, that's a good question. I'm gonna try to keep it quick. But one thing that I always try to tell people is don't hide your passion, because the whole reason I have the job I have right now is because of Soul and Stereo, indirectly. So I'll tell you how that happened. When I moved here in 2009, we left Louisville. I didn't have a job. My wife had a job, and remember, this is 2009. This was like the Great Recession. Like nobody had jobs. But I did pick up a job at a local ad agency and I was doing proofreading, which was my background. But one day they pulled a brother in the office and they were like, we were online and we saw you had a blog. And I'm like, oh, Lord, who done read my Chris Brown review in Mad this time? I'm in trouble. What happened? So what happened was they saw that I had this aptitude to write and use social media. Because at the time, social media was starting to pop off, but it wasn't like it is now, of course. So they were saying that they were creating this social media department. They wanted me to bring my expertise to that department. So that's how I started doing social media. From there, I was hired from AL.com when they went from their print publication to focusing more on digital. They wanted me to do social media for them, and they wanted me to write because my future boss, again, was reading Soul and Stereo, and they were like, when I was hired, I thought I was just going to be doing tweets. She was like, oh no, we want you to do writing. Because you do it on your site, we want you to do writing. That's how at AL.com I became a columnist, and I was writing about, specifically, I wanted to write about issues in the Black community, whether it's faith or work that's going on here, because that really wasn't being covered here. When you look at Birmingham, a majority Black city, at the time, no shade to my friends at AL.com now, because I know they're doing great work, but at the time, we were not getting that level of coverage of the Black community. I'm like, man, how are we working in the blackest city and we're not talking about the blackest issues? So I took that upon myself and tailored my content toward that. That's why I met a lot of people that are my current coworkers at the city of Birmingham now. It's where I met Ed Fields, who was our chief strategist, Mayor Woodfin, all of those folks is who I met working in that area. So if it wasn't for Soul and Stereo, I wouldn't have had made those connections that got me into City Hall today. So a lot of times people are like, oh, this is a hobby, I'm not gonna focus on this, I ain't gonna tell anybody that it's gonna be my little secret. Man, put it out there, because you never know what doors it's gonna open for you.
That's amazing, that's amazing. And we're working with Mayor Woodfin, he seemed to have a great personality.
Absolutely.
So when y'all collab on, these different posts and the content that y'all present, how's that process?
It's really easy, and it's easy because we had a relationship before City Hall. He always asks, all the time, how we met, and I don't quite remember how we met, but at some point he had my number, and I had his, and we texted, and we're talking about Outcasts or whatever, just that type of stuff, back when he was working at the school board. But over time, we've developed that connection where I understand where he stands politically, I understand the stuff he likes and the stuff he enjoys and his voice. So when there's something that comes up that he wants to, either he has a speech somewhere or he wants to write a social media post, a lot of times we get together, he usually just send me a text and be like, what's up, brother, we need to talk about blah, blah, blah. So I say, okay, cool, what do you want to say? And he'll give me a couple of lines or points or thoughts. And I'm like, all right, bet, give me a few minutes. Work it up. How's this work? 9 times out of 10, unless he changes a period or something, we good to go. And the only reason that happened is because we developed that relationship beforehand. So when I speak, he speaks, and vice versa, because we've been able to have that connection. I don't force anything on him. He tells me what he thinks, and I'm just the bullhorn that kind of works it and massages it together. Whether it's an important speech in Washington, or he's dropping a playlist, or he's doing a goofy Christmas video, all of that is just a collaborative effort because we understand each other's humor and ideals and walks in life and family, and that really shines in the content. So it's a very, very easy process, but it helps when you're cool with your boss.
Okay. So we have to speak about the infamous status where y'all said good morning to everybody except the water boy. So where did that, stem from?
It stemmed from, if nobody else gets anything else from this interview, I want folks to know that Randall Whiffen is just a regular dude from Birmingham. He is absolutely a kid of Birmingham. And he is so passionate about the same things that people are passionate about. When he was elected to office, it's not like he changed. So we're in City Hall. We see these seniors, could be my grandma, your grandma, coming up to City Hall with hundreds of dollars in water bills. And they were like, yes, last week it was $60, this week is $300. I don't know what to do, I can't pay it. We see that frustration, but because of the way the water board is set up, we can't really do anything as far as directly. So one day, Mayor Woodford had enough. He was just like, we have to say something because I see myself in these residents, because this is my community, this is my city, this is my grandma, this is my granddad. I gotta say something, and even though I can't directly make change, I can say what's on the mind of Birmingham, and that's what he did. And I remember it was a morning, and he came in there and he said, I'm gonna say this, we laughing and joking, but I know, I wasn't laughing and joking, because I know when he's serious, and he was not joking. So I was like, all right, we gonna do it. And I knew it was gonna get a reaction, but I didn't think it would get the reaction that it did. But I'm very proud of him for doing that. And I know that many of the staff were as well, because those simple words just echo the frustration that so many of our residents have. And as a leader, it's not responsible to be like, well, we'll fix it, oh, we'll figure it out, when these people still have to pay these bills. I mean, I get my water bill too, and sometimes I'm like, well, how is this happening? So he's essentially speaking for the people, and I'm just glad to help share that message to other people.
Okay. So being the Deputy Director of Communication, how important do you feel your role is to present the views of the citizens?
I have to realize that everywhere I am, I'm going to be reflecting the city's ideals, and Mayor Whitford's ideals. Even when I'm solo stereoing or doing something on Facebook, I know I'm reflecting that ideals, because I am essentially his bullhorn. I'm carrying his message. So it's very important for me that no matter what I do, that I'm always respectful of the ideals he has. So when I'm out, when I'm posting, I always think before, even though I post some crazy stuff and y'all like, everything has thought behind it, because I know that we represent our city and we represent it well. We all love our city, and we want to put it in the best light possible. So whenever I'm doing something, I know I'm reflecting him, and I have to put that forward. So if there's an initiative that's out, if there's something we're pushing, like right now we're really pushing childhood literacy, 2nd, 3rd grade. So that's something that's always top of mind. I'm going to share posts that have something to do with that. When there's an issue going on in the community with environmental justice in North Birmingham, I'm going to push that, because I know that that's something that's near and dear to his heart. So even though I'm my own person, I also recognize the role I have and the things that we're trying to get done in the city. So you can get some of me, but you're going to get a little bit of the city of Birmingham too.
Okay. With that being said, we were talking a little earlier about just kind of how people view the city of Birmingham.
Right.
And how does that, when outside of just, with the age of social media, when you all see those negative connotations put on Birmingham, how does that affect how y'all are in the office?
It hits a couple type of ways. I talked a little bit, a second ago about the Waterworks Board. If you live in Birmingham, you know the issues. You know the issues. And a lot of issues that are brought up are legitimate issues. I was talking to you before we hit record about this video I saw on YouTube that, it was just tearing us apart. It's like 10 reasons why Birmingham is like the worst thing ever. And your reaction would be like, oh, this person lying, this person don't know what they're talking about. He don't even live here. He don't live here, by the way. But everything he said wasn't wrong. Like, all of the things he pointed out were real legit issues. They were just framed in the most negative way possible. So if you were to see it, you would be like, oh, this is the worst place I've ever seen in my life. We live here, we know that's not true. We know that we're trying to fight beyond these issues, because these are all systemic issues that go back generations. We've been in office for 2 terms. Like, we can't fix 3 or 4 generations of problems. So we have to start at the root. In the office, it hurts. It hurts to see these issues, but it also motivates us to do more to fix them. And whereas we don't want anybody to cover their ears and pretend there aren't issues, we also know that it takes time. So we do always ask for a little bit of grace, because if there's an issue, when it comes to government, folks don't like to hear it, but it takes 2 to tango. we were saying earlier, if there was, trash is a big issue in our community. Trash is a really big issue. So we have had many initiatives to take care of trash. Mayor Woodfin will see, like when we have giant dump sites in our community, we'll clean it up. They'll take a photo, he'll see the photo, because I see it too, and it's clean. And then what happens a week later? That's piled up again. We have to realize that, okay, the city is taking care of this, but the community has to take care of it too. It can't be one-sided. So our hope is that we can push things forward to make Birmingham better, to fight those negative connotations, but we also want to get the community on board, to have that same passion for their city, because the only way we make the change that we need to, Jay, we have to do it united together.
And that was well spoken.